So that being said, we're going to talk about time management. The first part is mostly going to be theory of God and how to, because the purpose of today is how to make time for Him. But we firstly want to look at what is important to Him and a couple of analogies, and then move into the actual tools that you can use. What's very important, I think I mentioned it too late in the first section. What's great about coming to the second section is I can only improve, right? So people walked out there and they said it sucked and this was the reason. I picked up on it. I'm like, aha, I'm going to improve the second time around. So we'll surely get there. No, but if you've got questions at any time, you can raise your hand. I'll just ignore you and we can go on with that. But, yeah, like that. The first thing that I do want to mention is the following. Okay. Who of you ever heard of or read a book or podcast of the business guy called Ray Dalio? In any case, very famous guy. I'm not promoting him or his businesses, but I'm promoting a principle on the topic of principles that I got from him that I think is brilliant. So Ray talks about the following. He says, when we look at principles, right, never copy and paste them. Look at them, evaluate them, decide for yourself, and see in your life what will work, what can work, what definitely won't work, and start implementing that. And let me give you an example. You see these famous people out there that has it all figured out in life, right? You go to the bookstore, they brought out a book, you buy that book, you think, okay, they're going to give me all the tips to be Elon Musk. It's going to say everything in his book. And sometimes they do, but it worked for them. So when you read that, the same goes for tonight. I'm going to mention a couple of things. I'm not expecting you to sit here and say, oh, I need to agree with Dion, or this was a complete waste of my time. I need you to think of things that can work for you, or at least stir a thought in your mind and say, wait a minute, I don't agree, but it stirred a reason on why I don't agree. And that's perfect. I really don't have, if there was one single output or rather technique that you can use for better time management, there will be one book. I think that time management, project management, and maybe nowadays cryptocurrency is the three books that has like millions of books out there with none of the same resources or reasons for exactly that reason. Okay, makes sense. So please learn from it. But if you argue or if there's something that you think is not applicable in your life, because if we take on a principle, imagine this. If someone says, listen here, my success is because I trained 4 hours a day or ran 4 marathons a month, and you are fat, or no, cheesy, or you are definitely not someone that trains, I think 4 marathons might kill you. The idea that they're talking about is maybe an active lifestyle and how that might look in your work, and your time will say, I've got 20 minutes a day, then use 20 minutes a day for it. Okay, don't go and say, I'll cancel everything else to do 4 hours a day of training because that is what Bill Gates did, and I want to be Bill Gates. I think you're a couple of years too late to invent a couple of tech companies, but in any case, that is the whole fact about principles. Got it? We ready? Okay. So, today's purpose is, there's 4 reasons why we mess time management up. 5. Did I say 4 and showed 5? I've got toddlers. Apologies. There are 5. There are 5 reasons why we mess time management up. Okay, I'm going to read them to you. If you are taking notes, please write them down. But they're not going to make sense to you. Okay, they're going to make sense as we move along. And the first one is, we enter agendas or tasks that does not meet the SMART, S-M-A-R-T, SMART metrics. A lot of you might have heard about the SMART metrics. We'll explain it later. But the first one is, we enter agendas or tasks that does not meet these SMART metrics. The second one is, we insert elements in our calendar instead of tasks. And here I want to give an example. An element is a category. A task is a specific. So we are sitting here and say we want to make more time for God or our family or whatever. And we put in our calendar God or family. That's not a task. That's a category. What about God? What about your family? Why is this in your calendar in the first place? There's no specifics to it. Is it God is the element, and we'll go to it later, and the task is, I want to do Bible study. Okay, Bible study is a task that you can put in. I want to put a place for worship. Yes, worship is. I want to go and preach or sermon or evangelize or disciple. Yes, those are things that can be put in. So it needs to be something that is specific, right? The third thing is, We don't stick to our priorities. Later on, we're going to mention priorities, and I promise you, once we go through it, you're going to immediately say to yourself, aha, I'm that person that definitely don't stick to the priorities that we set out. The fourth thing is we continually miscommunicate the combined 100% rule. I did not mention that in the previous one. So someone that is listening, just ask me at the end, what is the combined 100% rule if I forgot to mention it? Okay, there we go. And then the last thing is we lost the plot on purpose. Those are the 5 biggest mistakes that we do make when it comes to that. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a quote. It says the following. It says, the grand tapestry of life. We all receive the same gift each day, and that's 24 hours. It's a divine equalizer where regardless of our situation in life, whether wealthy or humble, entrepreneur or employee, we're all entrusted with the same precious currency, which is time. Anyone tell me the author of that, or at least give me a valid reason on why that's my favorite quote? What's your best guess? Why is that my favorite quote? Yes, you are right, because it's my quote. It's my saying. Okay. Proud of it. Okay, so what is it referring to? It's referring to very simple and saying, listen, when we look at life and time as a whole, meaning we look at role models, we look at Jesus, we look at various people out there, the first thing that we do to discourage ourselves is we compare a lifespan with a lifespan. We can't do that because there's no fairness in that. Some people are born into wealth. Some people are born into poverty. Some people are born into a Christian home. Some people are born not in a Christian home. The one thing that we do have equally is 24 hours a day. Some will have more cycles of that 24 hours, and some will have less cycles of that 24 hours. So when we look at time and time management, we really need to think about the 24-hour period. That's why they say it's not how much time you have, but it's what you do with your time. That's where the saying comes in. Right, so keep that as a motivation and kind of just as a reminder that when you do your planning, when you do everything in advance, maybe just think about, before I delay, before I extend, before I do this, before I say I'll get to God tomorrow or in a week's time or what it's actually what you do today that counts. Okay. Not everything is that practical, but that's a very valid point to remember. Anyone here has read John Aldrich's book, Resilience? Brilliant book, talking about resilience. And so this author went out, and in his opening statement, he made the comparison between a horse and a camel. And he used the horse and the camel as an example to say, listen here, these are two animals that are seen as strength and seen as resilient, meaning they can carry weight, they can do the work, and they are more resilient than any other animals in the kingdom. That's why they use them in biblical times and till today. Okay. The difference between the two, and this is very important, is the horse is something that is strong and resilient, but will show when it's getting tired or weak or being depleted or getting old. A horse will carry, will run, will do everything, and will go and say, I cannot go more, I need food, I need rest, and I need water. That's the horse. The camel, on the other hand, very interesting, a camel shows no signs of exhaustion, no signs of depletion, no signs of anything like that. A camel will continue and continue and continue until it collapses and dies. That's what a camel does. So, what we do wrong, we tend to live our lives and do our planning as if we are horses. Okay? We do it and say, I'll push through until I feel weak, until I feel tired, and then only I'll look after myself. I'll push through with this relationship or continue neglecting my kids or my family or God until I run into a wall and say, okay, wait a minute, I need to actually turn around and pay attention to that. And that's why we see burnout. That's why the psychologist got main stage. There's the reason. It's teasing. But that's why people get mental burnouts and physical burnouts and spiritual battles where they get to the point and say, God, I don't recognize you. Do you think God overnight changed? Definitely not. We're in this battle where we think, okay, I'll continue and I'll work on it, or I'll make time for it when it shows a weakness. So we tend to treat our own lives and our management like the horse. The problem is our souls were designed to be camels. Camels continues for one reason only. They continue because they seek water for life. That's what they're doing. Our souls were designed to seek life. God created us to live eternally with Him. So our souls have that blueprint. We just want life. We want life, we want life, we want life, we want life. And then anyone here knows exactly when your end is here on earth? No one. So what model do you think our souls were intended to be? Because one day your soul would just say, done here, moving upstairs. Without warning, without notice. Some, and it's not a privileged or non-privileged things, there are things that happen, like you get illness or sickness where you slowly move backwards and sometimes fast. And there are, I won't say exceptions of the rules, but I'm sure you're sitting here and think, but I know someone that they kind of saw their time coming, right? And we all wish, kind of like we at least hope that there will be a warning to say you've got X amount of months. It's not good news, but we're hoping for that warning to say that's the amount of months, so now you can sort out everything. Our souls were not designed like that. Our souls were designed to seek life, and then at the point where it's done, it's done. Our souls have a deep desire for life, and God created us this way. So before we manage our time, there's 3 things that we need to understand. Why do we need to manage our time? We're looking at the 24 hours, and we're looking at our soul's natural ability to seek life, and we're looking at the resilience of a camel, meaning it can push through anything. And I mean you can push through anything, as long as there's hope of life after that. People get depressed because there's no hope in life. And if they lost all hope here, that's why the only hope that they can really get planted back is to know that there's eternal life. But if they don't understand any of those 2, medicine is maybe the only thing that temporarily will get their mindset out of that, but they lose hope and they get depressed, right? So when we do our time management, I say the most important thing that we need to understand is what is important to God first. Because understanding what is important to God will show us the reason why we need to manage our time and what should be in our time management. Okay, so this is the perfect ideal of or example of principles that I was talking about. These 3 are the 3 that I think is the best example. You, with your journey, with or without God, might have something different. You might in a different space where you think, okay, there's other things that I think is more important to God. That's 100% fine. Okay, so my examples here. And the first thing is, what is important to God is life. God created us to live eternally. I'm going to read it here. It says that our existence is a divine gift meant to be lived in communion with our Creator. Regardless of our earthly endeavors, our souls yearn for richness of life in all its forms. Life is important to God, and God created us to be with Him for all eternity. Eternity equals continuous life. And this is the reason why our souls tend to be like a camel, is for the mere fact that regardless of what our external factors and regardless of the day-to-day responsibilities and obligations, our souls seek to live. We want to live. Sometimes we just want to live not according to God's way. But God created us to life, for life. So life is important to God. So what you do with your life is important to God. So the elements in your life is important to God. The things that you find joy in is important to God. The second thing that you need to understand is relationship is important to God. God created us to have relationship with Him. And because of that blueprint, what was His first request from Adam's side? is I want someone to have a relationship with. And continuously, God's covenant and bringing us back into restoration, when he talked about relationships, he talked about restoring that relationship that we do have. So your relationship with God is very important, but so is your relationship with your family members. So is your relationship with friends, with your kids, with your spouse. Because a lot of people say, listen here, if I want to make time for God in my planning, it's only God. And I say, no, it's life. It's relationships. The third thing that I want to mention is provision. The first thing when it comes to, and I hate this phrase, people say, how do I find work-life balance? I'm like, it shouldn't be a balance. You should work to provide. God called you. God punished you to work to provide. I'm quickly going to expand on that one. When sin entered the world, God punished the devil and he gave man and woman two punishments. He said to man, you will work, right? And your labor will be hard. And to the woman he said, going into labor will be hard, right? It won't be an easy task. So for me, the natural thing, and Scripture backs it, it says that before that, man didn't need to work to provide because God provided. And I'm assuming when God created humans to multiply and go forth and expand, I'm assuming he never intended for labor to be painful. But through that punishment, I've never seen in Scripture God punish someone without the purpose of restoring relationships and drawing closer. If God wanted to punish Adam to move him further away from God, he would have said to Adam, Adam, you would work for no reason. There's no one that you need to provide for. You just need to work. He would have said to Eve, labor will be painful and there's no joy afterwards in that kid. Sometimes, as parents, we relate to that part. But other than that, that's not what God said. God said, Adam, you're going to have to work, but I'm giving you purpose through that. You now, my boy, you're going to have to provide for your family. There's a purpose of your work. And for Eve, he said the same thing. He said, there's purpose in what you do. There's purpose in your place, in your relationship. And this is not a topic of women's not allowed to work. This is an example of the Bible. It's got nothing to do with who brings the bread in, who works. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with the mere fact that provision is important to God. So the point is, your work is important to God. So it's not about a work-life balance. It's just about a balance. It's just about a timesheet balance. It's about understanding that you do what you need to because it is important to God. And now if God's purpose, or the purpose is, God's importance should be the highest priority. And priority, after all, is the driving force behind time management. So if we do time management, we shouldn't see gaps on where to enter God. We should start with God and see gaps on where to put everything else in. It's not always that practical, but we'll go through a couple of things. Before I show the time management tool, there's three analogies that I want to just talk about. And the first thing is the picture on the desk. And this relates directly to the provision part. You've seen it in movies a lot. And if you've got your own office or work in a corporate environment, I'm sure most all of you have that, is on your desk you would have a picture of your family. Your kids, your wife, your husband, your family, even sometimes your in-laws, like a blurred picture of them or anything like that. But you have that picture. And that started, when that trend started, it started because it was set as a reminder of who am I doing this for. That's where it started. Nowadays, it's just a trend. It's there. It's, look, we went golfing in Miami. I don't know. That's the memory. So I earnestly want to just push back into saying, when it comes to the provision part, when it comes to the working part, work is super important to God. I'm not telling you to just go quit and do other things. It's not important to God. But you, unfortunately, are the only decider on when's enough. When's provision, when's provision luxury, and when's luxury just completely stealing away from the purpose of having a family, having friends. I didn't ask in the beginning. I asked in the previous set, like, who's married, who's not married. A lot of these practices is family orientated. If you're not married, if you're single, if your time management is just your skill, keep these things in mind, because I promise you it only gets harder when you are married, when you have kids, when you move into a bigger career, when. This doesn't mean this is not tools that you can use now. So don't think I'm excluding anyone in that point, okay? But the picture on the desk is a reminder that you need to tell yourself, listen, this is enough. This is what God called me to provide. This is how I need to provide. We mean well. I also want to work to set my kid up for the best university out there. And if I can, great. I'm not saying it's sin. I'm not saying it's not allowed. I also want to do that. But to what expense? Does my kid ever see me or not? That's the label. Because family and relationships are important to God, just as provision is. So keep that in mind. You be the judge. What is provision? What's not provision? When's enough? The second thing is relationship is a two-way factor. If there's any form of relationship in your calendar, and there should be, even with family, extended family, everything like that, don't think that you're having a relationship with someone if there's not a two-way factor, two-way stream. Don't con yourself and saying, I'm having a relationship with my kids because I'm pulling them into the stuff that I've found meaningful. Okay, they can play at my workplace, they can come to me at church, they can do this, but when they want to do something, you're unavailable. The same with your marriage, and especially with your marriage. Wives, we don't like to hear about everything when we get home from work. Okay, it's just a side note. But that is a one-stream relationship if you never communicate back as a husband, or at least find time to communicate back. And the same with God. We say to God, okay, I'm going to put in my calendar, I'm going to chat to God, because my calendar is full. It's very full. But I'm going to chat to God on my way to work and back from work. So I'm going to pray, and I'm going to pray. And that's brilliant. That's great. Keep it going. Is God talking back in that moment? God, I'm not limiting him to everything, but he is known to communicate in any way that he'd like, but he's specifically known in telling you, I communicate through Scripture. If you're not getting time to read my word, you are only hearing some things that I want to say. And it's fine, my boy, my girl, come to me, talk to me through your prayers. I'm here. I'm not saying you're not allowed to, but I'm saying maybe I want to talk back. Relationship is two-way, any relationship. And then the third thing is, we love the idea of planning, but we don't like planning. We're sitting here today and we think, okay, we're going to take all these notes, we're going to get back home and we're going to do something. We're going to pick up books, we're going to plan better, we're going to do it. Oh, what do you think about that? How should we plan? We're going to. We love the idea of planning, we don't plan. So, I'm going to present something that I call the Richter household model. This is a model that it's not a picture of me as a model, it's maybe, I don't know. I'll see if this picture, you don't want to see that. Or you do, I don't know. But the model was designed around our family, and it works for us. It doesn't work perfectly. We constantly need to go back to trial and error a couple of things, but the idea around it works very, very well. So my wife's a full-time working mother. I'm a full-time working husband. And my kids are full-time working leechers, attending part-time school. Who's teachers here? I know there's one teacher, a couple of teachers. There we go. We love you and we dislike you at the same time. Okay, holidays is really unnecessary. Okay. We love our kids more when they're with you. Okay, just teasing. So when we do planning, and even in your business, keep the following in mind. The first thing that you should plan is a day of planning. So what myself and my wife did is we removed ourselves from the noises, meaning no TV, no kids. Well, they went to bed. We didn't just leave them. They were there, but they went to bed. And we said, okay, now we plan. And it was just us. No phones, no other things, no idea of planning, no walking into the kitchen and, how does your week look like? Okay, that's not planning. Even in your office. If you have strategy sessions in your office space, you should have strategy sessions, okay? As I said, we're not going to get to I'm going to continue after they've blown the whistle with the business thing. So for those that want to listen, I'll take 10 minutes and just explain a couple of things for that. But you need to start planning by planning. Okay, you need to put that time aside. We thought one day would be enough. We took 3 days of about 4-hour sessions each to just get our time management in order. So you take as long as you need. Don't rush through it, but stick to the principles of time management. Now, the first thing that you want to do, I think there's a couple of things that I mentioned there. Boom, 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 boom. Yep. Okay. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to remember that we're talking about elements. Elements are the categories of what is in your family, or, and this is the last time I'm going to repeat that, or what's in your business, or that's in your company, or in your own life, right? If it's just you, it's also fine. In your own life, you're going to say, these are the elements that contain tasks that I can categorize my life into. And in those elements, you have tasks. Great? On the same page? So, now for the reading part. Let me read for us. Your strategy session, and that's the session that you put aside to plan, your strategy session's main purpose is to be on the same page within a family. So, family can be yourself, family can be your company, doesn't matter, you insert the word. So, it's important to promote unity, to be able to blow wind into each other's sails. So, just pause there, don't continue reading. You, in any case, going to do that. So, to give you an example, it's important for our family time management contains my time management and my wife's time management and then the collective time management. There's 3 aspects to it. So it's important for me to understand what is important to my family, but what's important to my wife and vice versa, so that I can support her when she needs my support and vice versa. So even though we've got work schedules, for example, this month I've got a lot of keynotes, so I've got a lot of night working, so Cara knows she needs to back me through a couple of things, but it was planned well ahead, right? Okay, so also keep in mind that dreams and values, and this is where we do it wrong. Oh, wives, you like to dream. Also keep in mind that dreams and values are also super important in a family, and even in your personal life and goals. These, together with any other plans and aspirations, should not be included in your time management. And here's a rule of thumb. If you want to, you can run a separate board on this, or if you want to include them in your elements at a lower priority. But dreams are important, but calendars should contain tasks on the SMART metric. So something needs to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic or relevant, and within a time frame before it enters into your calendar or time management. So if you say, one day I want to renovate the house or paint, or to your husband, I wish you would fix this kitchen, don't put it in the times. Don't do it. It's not realistic. It's not smart. Okay, your husband's never going to fix anything. Okay? Be realistic. So if something is important to you, it will be important to your family. But the priority in sequence might just differ. So when you present an idea, and this is a couple of things I'm going to go now on how we present it, is you need to be specific on what it is and specific on what it contains. You need to discuss on how success and failures will be measured. Is it achievable, and what needs to be done to achieve it? The sacrifices. Is it realistic not only for you, but for your family that supports you? Is it relevant to your family's well-being? And what are the elements involved, by when, deadlines, etc.? And then keep this in mind. Use a calendar or project management tool that complements your family's accessibility. Don't use a tool that only you understand. Okay? And if you are it's just you single, use something that you can share with family members that is included in your time management, right? So consider others as well. It should be visible, visual, stimulating, and if you are a checkbox person, there's something called Monday.com. So we've got the SMART metrics. I'm not going to mention it again. So I'm going to show you my family's one. You need to do 2 things in your family or organization, and you need to first discuss what are the elements, meaning the categories in your family. The second thing that you need to discuss is what is the priority. That's what you need to do. So in our household, we've got God, marriage, kids, career and finances, health. Then we've got Marsant. way below my kids and career. Then we've got self-care. Then we've got hobbies and holidays. Okay? All of these are important to us. It is important for us to go on holidays. It is important for us to take care of ourselves. Our career and finances are important to us. Our kids are important to us. All of these are important to us. Your list can contain hundreds of categories, or 2, or 1. Forgot my animals, but that's on purpose. I don't like them too much. So, no, I'm teasing. So elements are categories, and the priority is something you need to decide on. So this is how it works. So what you do is you define the categories. That's the easy part. Now comes to agree within a family or in an organization what is the priority of that elements. What do you consider the most valuable? Because a lot of people would say career and finances over kids. I don't truly agree with that. But then a lot of people don't have kids. So I've got God and I've got career and finances, and sometimes I'll put God and career and finances as my calling together. It's up to you how you decide what your categories are, and it's interesting to understand how it will. Don't put kids up if you don't have kids. Don't put someone else's kids. You don't want someone else's kids on your priority list. Okay, they don't feature here at all. Not even under friends. They're not my friends. Their parents are my friends. So you don't want to put that up. So I'm not going to waste too much of your time. It's very easier from here, or easier said than done. Now you've got your elements and you've got your priorities, right, of those elements. You've established that. We took 2 days just to do this part, because there was something that we get to the point where we say health, hobbies, and holidays. Maybe we should shift. It doesn't matter too much. I said, wait a minute. It matters a lot. It matters a lot if the priority is not set right. You don't need to agree with one another when you're having this strategy meeting. Even in your company, you don't need to agree. The purpose is to exit that meeting on a unanimous plate. So continue until you find mutual grounds on what is important. Don't go and say, I'll do it because you're the wife, or you the husband, or you carry the pants. It needs to be your priority because of the following. The following would happen is, now under each element, this is the fun part. Each person, so if it's just you and your wife, it's you and your wife. If your kids have a say, it's them. If it's in your workplace, your team. If it's just you, it's fine. Have this discussion with yourself. Each person now takes the element of priority. So we start with element 1, God. Then we move down the list. And within God, Dion would go and Dion would say, okay, when it comes to God, these are the tasks that is important to me. Bible study, home group, this. And it's fun in the beginning because you just, we've got this. Our calendar's super busy. It's lekker. Go on. You'll see how it comes and bite you on the bum just in a couple of seconds. Go. What is important? What's the task? So I get to present. And then I can discuss those points to Carla or to my workplace. And then this is important. After I've presented and discussed it, because we discuss it, Carla can ask a question. Let's discuss this. It's a discussion. It's a two-way stream. Then comes the third point, is agree why this carries value. We need to be on the same page that this task that I'm talking about, why? Are we answering the why is this here in the first place? If you cannot answer the why, it shouldn't be in your calendar or in your family calendar or work calendar. You can put it on your own priority in spare time if you scheduled your spare time for that. Then we go into the specifics. What are the tasks that needs to fall into place? Like, is there multiple tasks? Is there a one-time thing? What are the things that we're doing about? Who needs to take responsibility for it? How and when? And then that gets added to the calendar. Easy enough? Easy enough. Great. Now, here comes the fun part. Now you move along. Because God is number one, and it's church is important, this is important, this is important. You look at your calendars, God, important. Then comes the next one, marriage, okay? What's important in your marriage? Date nights, if you've got kids, this, okay. Now, go through this exact same sequence. Remember, that was just me. Carla also needs to add her elements. Carla also needs to discuss. You know, your partner, your colleagues, they also need to go through the same exercise. Now we're going on the next topic, until you get to the following point. And the following point is as follows. You're going to get to the point where you're going to say, okay, these friends want us to go to Mozambique. Okay, so because now we are discussing holidays and friends, right? Perfect, great. When's the dates? 26th of April. Okay, let's go to 26th of April. Ooh, I've got a church event that I raised my hand to. What's the first thing that we do? Get someone to stand in at church for me, and we say yes to that. And I'm not saying you're not allowed to do that. Of course you're allowed to shift through, but we do this with everything. We do this with our kids, with our marriages, with our careers. As soon as we get to the lower priorities, because our minds tells us, listen, the fun should be a lower priority. Great, perfect. But I'm telling you, consider it, because it's going to come and bite you when you do your calendar. So, we give preference to the highest priority always. It's not fun to say no, but it really works well. We need to say no to people a lot because of that reason. In ending with that, I just want to mention that. What did I want to mention? Okay, so you're inserting that in your calendar. This is what I want to mention. What we practically do is it's impossible for us to run entire years worth of calendar. Okay, so we take the elements and the highest 3 or 5 tasks with known dates, and we insert that quarterly. We run a quarterly calendar with in our family. Then each week, what we will do, at the beginning of the week, we will then micromanage the time. And we'll say, these are the elements or tasks in our week. Let's do time management. Let's discuss it. And we'll just follow the same sequence. We'll say, well, 8 to 5 is job. I'm not going to go specific. In my workplace, I'll go specific what happens in the 8 to 5, but that's blocked out. So if I want to do Bible study, it needs to fit in here or here, and this, and then you work it like that. At the end of the week, over a glass of wine or water, or however you do it, we tend to just revise what happened in the week, what definitely didn't work well, and what should work better in the future. And that's the model that we follow, and it works brilliantly for us, okay? And this is the thing that I mentioned that I said I'm going to forget is the 100% rule. So a lot of people in marriages and relationships says the following, and please, if you want to go, I'm not going to find you rude. I'm concluding with this, but if you want to stand up, you're more than welcome to do so. So a lot of people say the following. They say a marriage is 50-50, or a marriage is 100-100, okay? Do the math. There's no way that adds up. A marriage and a teamwork or whatever, but specifically in a marriage. And please, if you're not married, this is still applicable to you, right? So a marriage is 100% collectively. That's what it is. In our household, Kara's got strengths, I've got strengths, and we play our responsibilities to our strengths. Okay? If Carla's better at doing something, there's certain biblical roles that God has called upon a husband and a wife, and we stick to that. But there's certain things that it's just a stereotype. Like it's a husband should be the provider and is the head of the home. Perfect. But some women are great accountants and just manage the funds better in that. Then do that like that. It's 100% fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So, in our marriage, we work to our strengths. We know what our strengths are. We know what the roles are, assuming it's something that's already happening. I'm not talking about new elements entering into our family. So what we do is when you hit a curveball or tiring factor or a busy month, myself and Carla will sit down and Carla would say, listen, preparing the kids' meals and routine for school, it's a 70-30% split. More or less. I would say, yes, I agree. You do most of the work, I help here and there. It's just in our task. Okay, great. I need you to back me an additional 20% this week. Okay. Within a couple, within a workplace, within a team, there always needs to be collectively 100%. So when someone does something, and it's 100, sometimes it's 100 and a 0%. That's 100% fine. But when they say, I've got a really tiring week, I've got late nights, I've got this, I've got stress at work, so in the moment I need you to back me 20% of my 100% or take my entire load off. You then go into discussion where you say yes, and if no, If it's not collectively 100%, you have a problem that you need to find a solution for. Then you either need to drop something else or reshuffle, you've got a problem. Okay, so follow the 100% collective rule, and that just helps with communication. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Llewellyn.